perform fellatio on me, and you get your deal. That was what I heard while I was on Empire about some of the people in the business. And Petey Pablo, you remember Petey Pablo?
I know who that is.
Petey Pablo, talented writer, singer. Him and Young Buck wrote a song called Ho Is On. And in that song, back in about 2011 or 29 or something, because he called out all of the taking place at those parties and those people, he was kicked out of the music business.
I thought it was gonna be cold out here. Feel good as hell. Nice and proud.
There was a time where I was sipping lean, I was popping pills, I was doing Molly, shrooms, everything. And it was just an escape for me. I was just young, like everybody in the industry and people in the world. I started valuing the wrong things in this business because there was things dangling in front of me. If I did this, I'll be happy. If I do this, I'll be happy.
Rappers, they're all so tough until you hear their real name.
Yeah, or until you see them at a Puffy party.
Oh.
Then they're not tough no more. I'm surprised that the rap game is still alive because the masculinity that the rappers are supposed to portray. Oh.
You can't be so happy to change it that you up your life. You know how many celebrities went to Diddy's house thinking they was finna dance?
When you give up those things, but when you give up your manhood, I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the Puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never gonna be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors.
Remember when Petey Pablo was dominating the charts? Every corner of the world was throwing up the North Carolina sign for Raise Up. But behind the fame, this lyrical powerhouse was quietly being erased from the music scene for exposing a secret the industry would kill to protect. Then came the baby. One day, he's rubbing elbows with Hollywood's elite. The next, his calls go straight to voicemail. And Justin Bieber? He casually drops names of drugs, Molly, Xanax, lean, as if they're nothing more than groceries, all just to survive a system that promised stardom but delivered chaos. They weren't just failing, they were being systematically destroyed. Brilliant talents sabotaged by a machine no one talks about. And now, Terrence Howard is stepping into the light, revealing a truth no one wants to face. What if none of this is random? What if there's a hidden mechanism that destroys artists the moment they refuse to bend? 3 generations, one chilling pattern. This isn't about whether a conspiracy exists. It's about how many more will fall before we say enough. Remember a time when talent alone could make you famous? That was Petey Pablo's world. But his story hints at something darker. That when true skill threatens the wrong people, fame can become a weapon, not a reward.
I was already 20-something years old and I'm sleeping on somebody's couch. I'm staying in New York. I'm the only thing, because I've never been a slouch, so the only thing that I know that I can do for the people that I'm staying with is make sure that they house clean and make sure that they dishes washed and, make sure if they needed something from the store, I would run to the store for them. But I was that dude before I went to prison, I was that, my money was straight, I was the big dog before I went. And so here I am now washing people's dishes and, sweeping their house up. And it was hard for a dude that was on a certain level in life, as a street guy, to have to humble himself to just survive.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What was the consequences when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at me. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. And he's sitting there, just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, you know, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to f you. That's what my assistant said. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication. Now you know to be hands off with somebody.
This is the Petey Pablo. The music industry doesn't want you to remember. 20 years old, hungry and grinding from nothing. No connections, no silver spoon, just raw talent and a relentless drive that helped shape hip-hop itself. When Raise Up exploded, it wasn't engineered or focus grouped. It was pure, untamed fire that refused to be controlled. But here's the twist that sets his story apart from every other rags to riches tale you've ever heard.
You know, the whole Terrence story, that was a whole story within itself anyway, because the reason that I got that role on Empire was, like Cherry said, I'm just that guy. I just so happened to run into Terrence Howard in the Four Seasons Hotel, and I was like, hey, what's up, man? That's Terrence, the Hustle and Flow. Oh, man, what's up? He was like, man, I listen to all your stuff. He was like, even when I was on Hustle and Flow, he was like, I listen to your music. You know, he said, I was trying to act like Petey Pablo, and that's crazy to me. You did. So I said, hey, man, we all going out. What's up? You want to come out? And he was like, nah, man, I'm going through a little something right now, man. I lost my wallet, lost my credit cards and everything. So I'm just going up to my room, man. And so I was like, damn, you lost. So I reached in my pocket and pulled out 200. He was like, here. Take it. He was like, here. He was like, I was like, no, man, you just don't be walking around with nothing in your pocket. Like, here. Oh, that's and I gave him the money and I walked off. So fast forward, 13 years later, I get a phone call. And this is a couple years ago. He was like, is this Petey? I was like, yeah. He was like, first of all, I need you to see. He's like, this is Terrence Howard. I was like, damn, what's up, bro? I ain't heard from you in year. Last time, he was like, yeah, last time I seen you, yeah, something happened between us. And I need you to send me your address because I owe you some money. And I was like, nah, bro, you don't owe me no money. He was like, bro, send me your address or I'm going to hang the phone up and and you'll never hear from me again. So I'm like, okay. So I give him my phone, my address. 2 days later, I get a check for $15,000.
Dang, what a great investment.
Crazy, right? Crazy. So I called him back and I was like, bro, he was like, listen, you do not realize that at that time, I didn't lose my wallet. He was like, I just said that because I was so embarrassed that I was going through what I was going through in life. And he was like, effortlessly, you just reached in your pocket and handed me money and didn't really even know me. You knew me from watching me on TV. You know, we had never had a conversation or anything. And he was like, and people that I'd known for years had denied me at that point in time in his life. And he was like, and he was really in a bad place. He was like, for me to reach in my pocket and effortlessly just do an act of kindness that way, he was like, it changed his thought about life. And I was like, man, that's really crazy. He was like, now we got that out of the way. Now I need you to help me on this Empire situation.
Rappers, they're all so tough until you hear their real name.
Yeah, or until you see them at a puffy party.
Oh.
Then they're not tough no more. I'm surprised that the rap game is still alive because the masculinity that the rappers are supposed to portray, perform on me and you get your deal. That was what I heard while I was on Empire about some of the people in the business. And Petey Pablo, you remember Petey Pablo?
I know who that is.
Petey Pablo, talented writer, singer. Him and Young Buck wrote a song called Ho Is Home. And in that song, back in about 2011 or 29 or something, because he called out all of the taking place at those parties and those people, he was kicked out of the music business. No radio station would play his stuff. So you look for Petey Pablo, he's not around.
Real recognizes real. When Petey Pablo showed simple courtesy to Terrence Howard at the Four Seasons, he had no idea he was talking to a future Hollywood legend. No cameras, no flashing lights, just one person treating another with genuine respect. Years later, when Terrence had the power to make things happen, he remembered that moment, and he got Petey a role on Empire. This is the kind of character we're talking about. Authentic connections in an industry built on fake smiles and calculated moves. So here's the question everyone's asking. If Petey had the talent, the grind, and the integrity that even Hollywood respected, what went wrong?
The actual truth. Straight up, hey, you better get your mind right because this is what's going on. And that's what I've always been on. I'm like, hey, man, telling the truth is the coolest. You know what I mean? Lying and fronting and putting on and stunting. Like, you talking about Ferraris and Lamborghinis. Like, a lot of people ain't never gonna even see these cars in real life.
If you're going to speak against me, then use the same courage that it took for me to say those truths. Man to man, eye to eye. Integrity and in truth. I've spent a lifetime earning the right to speak with the conviction about these truths that I speak. So if you want to tear that down, have the decency to come and say it directly to my face. And say it like a man.
And then it happened. The moment everything changed. Petey Pablo made a choice that would define and ultimately derail his entire career. He decided to speak the truth about what he saw, what he was being asked to do, and what the music business really demanded from its artists. He chose his values over money, his integrity over industry approval, and the very system that had lifted him up turned on him in an instant. But here's the harsh reality. Standing for the truth in Hollywood comes with a price most people never see coming. And Petey Pablo paid it. Now it's time you see exactly what the industry demanded from him, and what happens to the artist brave enough to refuse.
When you give up those things, but when you give up your manhood, I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there because they get fluid. And next thing you know, once you go fluid, it's gone. You don't have any foundation to pull yourself back from. So maintain your man card. I'm here. I don't care what happens. I'm here to bring the truth at whatever cost that comes with it.
There's a lot of people that was waiting for the next white party. There's a lot of people that needed that party.
This is the moment everything clicks. Terrence Howard just exposed Hollywood's darkest secret, the real reason Petey Pablo was erased from music history. It wasn't talent, it wasn't market trends, it wasn't even bad timing, it was sexual favors. From the very start, the industry made it clear, give them what they want behind closed doors or forget